Hello again, everyone. Thank you for joining me, Stephanie, for another Facebook Live video for Giving Tuesday. I'm joined again by Jason Drucker, one of our board members, and the Zimmer family, Stephen, Michael, Stephanie, and Laura. The Zimmer family has raised over $100,000 for the ALS Association Oregon and Southwest Washington chapter over the years, all in memory of Liz Zimmer. This annual campaign has made a huge difference for ALS research and the services that our chapter provides. I'm going to turn the conversation now over to Jason, who will be facilitating an interview with the amazing Zimmer family. Thanks, Jason.
Thanks, Stephanie. The Zimmer family, it's wonderful to meet you both. Like yourselves, I came to be involved with the ALS Association due to a close family member, in my case, my father, being diagnosed with ALS in late 2016, and he ultimately passed in 2018. And for me, that became an impetus for involvement and recognizing how debilitating this is, not only for the person dealing with ALS directly, but the family and the community that surrounds them. And so I have found the ALS Association to be a wonderful organization to be involved with, to bring some of that energy and trying to help people that are going through that and ultimately working towards finding a cure. So I'm very excited to spend time with you today. Your families made quite an impact locally and broadly on the fight to defeat ALS. So why don't we start off with Stephen telling us a little bit about yourself and your connection to the ALS community.
Okay. Well, hello, everybody. My name is Stephen Zimmer, and my association with ALS is unfortunately through my wife, who died approximately 5 years ago. We're coming up on 5 years. Liz was diagnosed. Actually, we're down in the desert, and we're playing golf, and she says, there's my doggy. She said, my arm feels funny. Something's going on, and so we didn't think too much about it. You know, everybody has little things that come up, and then she had an accident. Actually, she had been run over by a golf cart when she was playing golf at a friend's country club, and a result of that, she had some leg injuries, and she was going through some therapy there. And her instructor there indicated that something seemed kind of funny, that her reactions were very fast, and so forth. So we went in and saw a doctor and got the diagnosis of ALS, and so we went through all the stages. I remember we heard at the time that she could figure on 3 to 5 years, but it went much faster for Liz. She very quickly lost the ability to swallow, and soon the ability to talk, and then as it progressed. So from the time of the first indication till she passed away was probably about 1.5 years, actually about a year from what you all definite diagnosis, and went through quite a period of that. And it was terrible. It was terrible that I lost my wife and kids lost their mom. But one of the positive things that happened is it brought all the family together, and the kids who were not living locally came home. Laura from San Diego and Michael from New York, and of course Stephanie was in Seattle, so she could easily travel back and forth to spend a lot of time, and actually we just had a baby right at the time, so we had a new infant that she got to bring down, and that was a real joy to Liz. That was little Kai. So I mean, I always say the good thing that we got out of that was we really had a great family year. We had a lot of support from friends. We had regular groups of people that would come in and be with Liz and pray with Liz, and to the degree that we had almost had to say, well, we've got too many visitors here, and Liz had said, to me, I like it that people come, but I really have to somewhat limit it. So I was the great scheduler. That was my job. Everybody had a job, and I'll let them tell you about what they did, but they were all amazing. And Michael was the primary caregiver. Laura was the disciplinarian, and Stephanie supplied the grandchild. That was what was so nice for that time. So
well, it's amazing that it brought your family together in that difficult time, and it's carried through, because here we are in 2020, and you're able to get the entire family onto a Zoom call, which is logistically almost impossible, certainly improbable. So it's great to have the whole family here. I realize that the order of windows is not always the same for everybody as they see them, but I'm going to go kind of clockwise, and I guess the reverse. I have to do the clockwise so that you see it clockwise. But let me start with Laura. Maybe just tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your mom as well.
Hello, everyone. I am in Portland now. I was living in San Diego, came home as our family faced this challenge to be here and to be with my mom and support everyone in the daily challenges that came through facing ALS. And now I've stayed in Portland. I'm an elementary school teacher up here, so keeps me busy. And it was when my mom was diagnosed, it was a shock, because I'm sure a lot of people who have gone through this have experienced and know, and there's highs and lows, and a lot of it is so in the moment, like you just kind of go with it and do it. And so my mom was just very graceful through everything. She faced the disease with a sense of calm, and you saw her best shine during this time in some ways, because the people who came to her side, she was truly a caregiver her whole life, raising 3 kids. And as a friend, you just saw these people come out of the woodwork who she had been there for something for them somewhere along the way. And just to see all these people come back when she was going through something showed the type of friend she was and the type of person she was, who always put others first. And people recognized that and came to her side during that time. She was really an amazing supporter.
Amazing. Stephanie, same question.
Hi, I'm Stephanie. I'm the oldest and the shortest of the group. I live in Seattle, and I have 2 kids. We just talked about this. One is 3 and one is 5. Kai was born actually when I found out my mom was diagnosed with ALS. I was pregnant, very pregnant. They tried to keep it from me, thinking it would be too stressful, which I was, of course, not happy about. But it was a very emotional time in general, because I was so hormonal.
Right.
And was planning on having my mom be supporting me, through my first child. So it was kind of a very fast role reversal. But looking back, am so happy she got to be a grandmother, because I had been hearing for however many years I've been married, everyone else has grandkids. So I was really happy that she got to experience it, even though she didn't get to experience it the way that she would have liked. But little Kai was on her bed with her at least once a day.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, it was tricky not being able to help as much as I would have liked to, because I was, feeding the baby or, changing the baby, or always having something to do. I did get to spend time with her in the desert early on in the diagnosis, where I was able to help quite a bit. And that was special. And I got a lot of one-on-one time with my mom, and she got to watch me be a mom, which was pretty amazing. Yeah, I'm sad she never got to meet Kira in person, although I think she shines through Kira a lot of the time. I see that happening. So Yeah, I guess, did I answer all the questions?
That's wonderful. Michael, and yeah, I understand the burden or the opportunity to be the primary caregiver fell to you. Maybe tell us a little about yourself and your interaction with your mom, your story.
Yeah, I'm Michael. Yeah, I'm a comedian and performer. When I can be pre-COVID, a little bit during COVID, and yeah,
It's hard. You got it, Michael.
Can I say something about Michael while he gathers himself?
Please.
Michael was a hero throughout this time. He put his life aside. You know, he left New York, and I know sometimes he wishes he had left a little bit sooner, but he was just amazing. He was, I felt like he was born to be a nurse almost. I was thinking he should have a career change. He was intuitive. He knew how to be patient and figure out what mom really needed. He was on top of all of the changes because it happened so fast with her that we were constantly learning something. You know, every day we were learning something new. Okay, now we need this, now we need that. And what she needed and how she communicated was changing. It felt like every day there was some update. And Michael was the one that was on top of it in communication, getting the supplies we needed, looking at alternative therapies, you know, giving her CBD, which she didn't really like, you know, whatever it was.
Yes.
Help. He was there, you know, giving it a chance. And, you know, he was amazing. He just kind of, Laura could attest to it because it was frustrating and hard at a lot of the time, and how he stayed strong throughout it. I mean, he was amazing. So.
Well, it is amazing. Well, I can tell you, Stephen, you have quite a family. I can see in these kind of crises, there's a little bit of role discipline that gets brought to bear, right? Everybody plays a different role, but it's so important. Stephanie, the family, I know for me personally, some of my lasting memories of the interactions with my father were my kids. I have three kids, and their interactions with their grandfather was just awesome. And Laura, to relocate from San Diego is no small feat, and then to have a primary caregiver, I can see Team Zimmer deploying. But I love the comment too about how your mom was the strongest one in all of that. And in many ways, she was a caregiver as well. It's quite a legacy, a family legacy, and a legacy that she brings. And so you put so much energy as a family into the caregiving during that period. It feels like you're on quicksand, right? I can appreciate the constantly evolving nature of you think you have it solved and you realize you have it solved for one day and then it changes again. And so it's totally reasonable when the disease runs its course to say, I need a break, like enough. I'm out. I've had enough of ALS. But the Zimmer family has done the opposite. You guys have leaned in and created a second legacy of involvement with trying to fight ALS. So, Stephen, what inspired you to stay involved and to contribute to the degree that you have, not just individually, but broadly, bringing the community to bear on this fight?
Well, to begin with, it really started with Liz, because when in that last year, she was active. We actually started a fundraiser. We belong to a country club, and we have a golf tournament every year that's devoted to charity. And it had previously been Heart Association, and we had actually 2 members of our club come down with ALS. And so the suggestion was made that instead of Heart Association, we make ALS. And so we had the first tournament, and we were able to, have sponsorships and make it quite a nice fundraiser. And Liz was there at that first event.
Amazing.
in her wheelchair, and it was great. I mean, everybody always said that was the best tournament, of the year. Is like, not that people in country clubs are, self-serving, but the fact that we were able to have a fun event and have it be a helpful charity. So we just kind of kept that going, and the thought that we had was that although there's a lot of needs within the ALS community for caregivers and equipment and so forth, we felt that it would be good if no one ever had to go through this again. And so we put all of our efforts into the research and trying to find a cure. I can't help thinking sometimes with what's happened with COVID is that if anything near that kind of money was available to ALS, I don't think we would probably have ALS today. At least it would and yet that was the thing that with the icebreaker things, ice bucket, that kind of got the money flowing, and the idea was to try to keep it flowing for that. And so it was just a natural move to keep going, and then we just keep trying to make it a little bit better, all the time. But the people that originally support us continue to support us, and then we add new supporters all the time.
That's amazing. I like you think about that. I mean, to go from virus being found to vaccine now, being deployed, you see what can happen when we really marshal the resources in a way that brings the ingenuity or the scientific insight to bear. And in part, I feel like the battle that you guys are helping fight is just an awareness one. It's making sure that this gets the focus and energy. And so some of that's dollars, but some of it's just events like this, where we hopefully catch the eye of somebody that's not aware of how big of an impact it. Often you hear that the number of cases of ALS per year is very small relative to other diseases, but the impact that ALS makes on a community is humongous. I mean, just absolutely amazing. And so it has an outsized impact, and because of that, really requires the level of focus. Maybe not a COVID-like focus, but whatever is one rung below that is what we're hoping to get people to. So you guys have created an annual campaign. Maybe Stephen or Laura, Stephanie, maybe talk to us about what you are doing with your annual fundraising.
Well, we have to thank ALS Association, and specifically Stephanie Dean, who have really been helpful. So, they make it easy by providing a lot of assistance with what we're trying to do. So they help with the communications and developing the website and all that makes it really nice. So we have kind of a formula for what we're doing, and it's kind of interesting is, it really is not so easy that you just ask people once, but you ask a number of times before they finally get on board. And there's nothing like any, the personal contact. And like Laura was saying, Liz had so many great friends that really want to give back because, she was such a giving person. So we just keep trying to, improve it and, increase the game, so to speak. And it's, sometimes, you think of, well, somebody's already given, I hate to ask them again, but we do. We ask them again and again and again and again.
That's wonderful.
So I always take the thing, as you say, well, you ask somebody 10 times and they haven't given, why are you going to ask them again? And I go, because I say, I've asked you 10 times and you haven't given yet. Don't you think it's time to?
Yeah, is 11 the charm? What are we doing here? That's great. Well, I have the honor of sitting on the board of the chapter, the Southwest ALS Association, Southwest Washington and Oregon. And I watch on a pretty regular basis how those funds are deployed very effectively. You talked about how your hope is to find a cure, and the association really has kind of a three-pronged mission in life. One is to raise money to find a cure and the association made the largest kind of donation or kind of up-leveling of funds to the national organization last year for that purpose. But they also provide care directly in the community, and they also advocate for changes to build laws that would help get people to access to care more quickly, for example. But Laura, what are you thinking about when your family raises money for this on an annual basis? What are you hoping comes from the fundraising?
I mean, the cure as well. Obviously, we hope that in the future families won't have to go through what our family did. But the piece around what the ALS Association provides in terms of support and care is really pretty amazing. They were with us every step of the way. And, everything from loans of equipment or just advice on what equipment to get or how to handle a certain, new issue that we were facing. They were there through all of that to really support us. And beyond that, they continue to provide a community through the events that they still hold. Like I volunteer at the gala every year, and it's a chance to be with people who have gone through something similar to what you went through and really provide that connection. So I think they're continuing to provide a service to families beyond when the diagnosis and the time with your loved one has passed. So I think that that's a piece of it. And just, being a part of these events, you see other families, and we were very lucky to be able to pick up our lives. My brother was able to be the caregiver, and we know not every family has the same resources. And when I think about supporting the ALS Association, I think a lot about how lucky we were to be able to do what we did to care for my mom and keep her at home with us right until the end. And I think about what can we provide? How can the support we provide give other families that same experience, that they're able to continue to live their own lives and be in their homes. And so I think a lot about those services that the ALS Association provides as well.
Yes, I think about those as well, and it's amazing to see the impact that makes. I mean, the cure is so important, but it's a long fight to find that. And on the way, every day, unfortunately, people are diagnosed, which means families are ultimately diagnosed, and that care means all the world in many cases, as you point out. Stephanie, what's your hope when you think about this, terrible journey that you guys went on? But what is your hope for others or families as they go through this from the beginning in the future?
Yeah, a lot of what Laura said is probably a lot of what I would say. The other thing that came to mind when she was speaking is I know that there is a lot of research for drugs that even just slow the progression, because I think that in the near future, that's the more realistic thing that we can expect. And when I think about what I went through with my mom and how quickly, we just didn't know that it was going to be so fast. And her losing her ability to speak and then her ability to use the iPad to speak happened so fast. And being with my son and not being able to get the answers to all of those questions, looking back, there's, I think it just all was coming so fast that we didn't have time to really think about how we wanted to spend that time, asking those important questions that now we may never get the answer to. And so just the idea that you have more time with your loved one, and and I know that it's, depending on the amount of suffering, there's a point where maybe you wouldn't want to keep prolonging it, but for the family members, especially, being able to just kind of have that time to prepare yourself for what's happening could make a big difference on the whole experience. I don't know.
No, I think that's wonderful. I think it's very well said. I think, an extension of a high quality of life to whatever degree is possible. But I think you also said something very important there, which is kind of live every day for that day. And I know, I don't know, but I assume that we all kind of go through a similar journey, which is we do our best, but afterwards we wonder, like, what could I have said differently? What I wanted to ask about this. I wanted to have this interaction. And so I think that advice, which is to say early on where it feels like a crisis state and you're trying to get to stability, but recognizing that stability is an elusive goal with ALS, and that actually having the best possible family day and interaction. And I'm excited. I'm happy to hear that you guys were able to bring the family to bear in that there is no promise of 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. It could be 1 year or less, is great. Well, one of the downsides to talking about ALS is that it's sad, right? But I know that what I have found with families that have been through this journey is they're also unbelievably hopeful. So, Stephen, such a crazy world we're going through right now, but what are you hopeful about in 2020?
Well, beyond ALS, peace in the world. One of the things that, I look at, which I consider really sad, is that the world's never had so many resources to provide for all the things that are the problems we're having, whether it's global warming or disease or hunger or all of those maladies that we have as a world, are all solvable if we all just pull together. And, if everybody does a little bit, there's a whole lot of stuff gets done. And it just seems that there's not the will to do that. I think ALS might be a good role model for the world, because everybody in the ALS Association and all the people who've gone through this, I think are all pulling together and trying to do what they can. And so there we are.
I think the pattern, sometimes the first pattern can be really hard to establish. And then the second one gets a little bit easier. And so we do have the ability, if we focus, we can get amazing results. And we see that with COVID-19 and, time of a vaccine being brought to bear. And so I think it's incumbent upon us to kind of see a future without ALS and to kind of lead the community to get us there. And you guys play a huge role in that. Laura, what are you hopeful about?
I'm hopeful for the future, that just looking forward to joyful moments with the family when we can be back together in the way that we want to be. I think ALS, we were always a close family, but I think it changed our family to become even closer. So those are really the highlights of the year, is the times that we're together. So this has put a bit of a wrench in our normal habits. We're normally with about 50 people, I'd say, on Thanksgiving. I think we were in groups of 4. So,
right.
So I'm hopeful for the future that feels bright right now as we learn about vaccines. And I'm hopeful.
I thought you were going to say that you were hopeful for getting back into in-person teaching as an elementary school teacher, but maybe not. Maybe remote's okay.
There's perks either way. I definitely miss teaching in person, but it's also nice to teach in your slippers. So, Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Stephanie, what are you hopeful about?
Well, I'm hopeful for in-person teaching.
Opposite sides of the same coin, right?
Kindergarten online is definitely not ideal.
Not ideal. There's been a challenge for sure. Well, I thank you guys. What an amazing family, Stephen. What an amazing legacy. The work you guys do to support the ALS Association is like off the charts appreciated. You guys are kind of local famous in our circles. And so it's great to finally put faces with names. And I'm not surprised the results you guys get, just given the conversation we've had today. So thank you very much for your time, and look forward to speaking with you at another time in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.